when I go back to my story, I come from one of the poorest towns or poorest cities in the U.S. And so my reach, you go from the ground all the way to being able to sit in boardrooms and hang with billionaires. That's a big gap. What I've traveled and the things that I've been able to experience, I can get on so many different levels. And a lot of times we don't think that we belong, or we don't think that, or we don't have people that could actually relate to us. And that's where I come in, and I'm able to relate to the person that really come from these certain situations and let them know that, hey, it's still possible. It's not as complicated as you think.
I made it through the rough time. I made it through the tough time. I made it through the bad time. So now I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Okay. One day we gon' get on. Talk to 'em. You ain't got a choice. You gotta notice me living my best life like it's supposed to be.
Welcome to another episode of Bailey and Buck Unplugged, where we talk about sports, entertainment, and mental health in support of the Kennedy Kids Foundation. Now, we like to kick off every show by reminding you, if you're struggling, especially if you're doing it in silence, if you're ashamed, if maybe you're just thinking you can do everything on your own, we'd like to remind you, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody needs help now and then. So if you're really in a crisis, dial the 988 Crisis Prevention Suicide line. Or if you're in really big trouble, there's always 911 if you're really in an emergency or a family member's in an emergency. But you can also check out kennedykids.org and go to our resources tab. And we have a ton of information, links, and resources available to you to help you out. It's just a great place to start to look. But remember, you're not alone and you don't have to do everything on your own. So I'm going to kick off today, like we always like to kick it off, by introducing your host in case you're new around here. My name is Misty Buck. I am a mental health and performance coach for athletes and high achievers. And I'm also an author. You might know the book Athlete Mental Health Playbook. And I'm joined today by my co-host, Robert Bailey. Robert he's got his own set of credentials here, right? But he is a two-time Super Bowl champion, 2 times college national champion, NFL record holder, president of Rosenhaus Sports, and also the president of the Kennedy Kids Foundation. And now that you've heard about us, it's really time to hear who you came to hear from. Now, I'm going to do my best with this intro, because if I listed this man's entire list of accolades, I think it would take half of the episode time. So I'm just going to do my best to read off some of these things. So we got Hall of Famer Edgerrin James here with us. That's right. From gold teeth to gold jacket, the man himself is here. Now, again, I'm going to do my best. I'm just going to read off a few of these highlights because there's literally too many. It's like pages here. So, he's a Hall of Famer. Obviously, we started with that. He played at the U, right? He played for a few different teams in the NFL. He was the number one time AP first team, All-Pro in 1999.
Yeah.
NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1999. He's the 2-time NFL rushing yard leader from 99 and 2000. His accolades go on and on and on in his football career. Again, it's amazing. He has his own podcast, Create the Life, and he is the president and CEO of Evolving 8 Enterprises, where he leads and inspires a team of young and highly motivated individuals who oversees the company's numerous business ventures, right? And what I think is so amazing about this is that his vision for the company is guided by a few different things, right? So he's got 3 core values that guides all this: loyalty, principle, and sacrifice. And that he believes if something is to be done, it should only be done the right way. So that is a very short synopsis. We're going to hear it all from this man himself. I tried my best, Ed. You got too many amazing things. So, Robert, why don't you go ahead and kick it off?
We want to welcome Edgerrin to the show.
Welcome.
Nice to have you, man.
I appreciate that.
Good to have you on, EJ, man. A lot of people don't know our history, but, EJ was one of our clients at Rosenhaus Sports. And I really became super involved with EJ on a day-to-day basis. Really, I would say around 2005, 2006, when he was, transitioning from the Colts to the Cardinals. And, I like, for this show, we always like to bring something to the fans that they've never heard before. Because your story is out there, a lot of information out there on you, a lot of impressive things that you've accomplished. But I want to bring some of my personal experience that I've had with you to the fans. So let's go back to your first year at the Cardinals. I remember when EJ was signed to the Cardinals, and EJ says to me, Misty, this is funny. You'd like this. EJ says to me, "Hey, I want to stay in a hotel. Find me a penthouse." Yeah, EJ's laughing because he knows where I'm going, and he says, "Find me a penthouse. I want to do everything. I want to be efficient. I'm not looking to cut on any lights, cut on, utilities. Yeah. I'm not looking to rent any place. Find me a penthouse that I will stay in the entire year." So I find a penthouse at the Ritz Carlton. I negotiate for him to live in the Ritz Carlton in their penthouse the entire year. I make it so that Edgerrin, when he gets there, he does not even check in. He enters the building in a special entrance in the back. He gets to go up to his penthouse. Whenever his family came in town, they all stayed there. And he basically lived in the Ritz Carlton and had a locker beside his locker in the locker room that he kept all of his clothes in. So if you talk about the early Airbnbs, this would be an early Airbnb before Airbnb was even invented. EJ, I want you to tell the listening audience, the watching audience, where did that philosophy come from, and why did you want to do it that way instead of the traditional way of coming into a new town, renting a place, turning on utilities, like the old traditional way? Why was it important for you to just be able to come into a town and stay in a hotel, obviously a penthouse, as big as a regular condo, but why that way? Tell us about the philosophy behind that.
Well, I just think it's, after you've been in the league and you've been around, you see, you waste a lot of time and you take on responsibilities that really shouldn't be something that you have to deal with on a daily. If you play football, when you think about the season, you really start, like you go to training camp in July, August pretty much, but the season is September, October, November, December. And if you win, then it extended to January and goes on to February, but it's week to week once you get to playoffs. And for myself, it's more of just being efficient and knowing it's not a permanent home. This is not somewhere that I'm going to actually stay or actually be in the off season. So it only made sense to just, go in and live like pretty efficient without that many responsibilities. And also, you get to spend more time on what you're there for.
Right.
You don't have to waste a lot of time. Like you waste a lot of time trying to get the lights turned on, the furniture, to get the water, get all that stuff right there. It's like, it serves no purpose because you spend so much time at the facility that I was just committed to being at the facility and made sure that, when I come to my house or to where the Ritz became my house, when I came home, everything was, you had a maid, you had everything laid out.
Right.
And financially, as an athlete, and I'm surprised more athletes don't do it, it's a write-off for you anyway. It's a tax write-off. And you have a big contract, you get to get the full tax write-off. So it's like you're basically living there for free. And you get to live in the Ritz Carlton. I'm staying in the Ritz Carlton, and then I'm hanging out, around the city, but I'm always going back to the Ritz. That's a cool place to be at. And plus, I don't have all these responsibilities. The less responsibilities, the more free time I have.
So there's like no downside to this, it sounds like.
There's really no downside. There's really no, because you have to think about it. I'm an out-of-towner, really. You know what I'm saying? I'm really coming there for 4 months. You're coming there like on an assignment. And for me, it just made too much sense. I wish I would have started that sooner.
And many people have heard about your background and where you grew up and how you grew up in Florida. I'm a South Florida girl born and raised in Miami. right? So I know you were a little bit not quite in Miami or that part of South Florida.
Right.
But I want to learn a little bit about how you develop these core values of loyalty, principle, sacrifice. Like, where did some of these come from? Was it from your background growing up that started to develop for you?
Yeah, I think when you grow up and you understand the pros and cons of any situation, loyalty, principle, sacrifice, those things right there they're timeless, they're not going anywhere, but they keep you whole. And it keeps you have to hold yourself accountable first. You have to
Yes.
be it. And then once you hold yourself to a high standard, you recognize certain things and certain people and you're able to alleviate a lot of issues. If you see somebody that's not right, or you recognize some things that don't align with your core values or your principles, you remove yourself from them. You think about
Right.
the people that have been done wrong or unjust. Those people usually don't know the people, or they kind of let their guard down. They didn't hold the people accountable. Because a person that's solid, a person that stands on business, or like what they like to say right now, a person that stands on principle, those people right there, they have a track record. I don't care where you go, who you talk to. A person that's mad at them couldn't speak bad about them, when it comes to doing things the right way. So I try to make sure I keep myself, I hold myself accountable, but keep myself aligned with those things, because it's the right way to do things, and it's nothing negative can come up out of it. Only person that has a problem with me is a con man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You
So who holds you accountable? So if you hold yourself accountable, I heard you say that. Does anybody else hold you accountable?
Well, everyday people. I'm talking about anybody. A stranger can hold me accountable. If you look and say you're supposed to be this, I am that. I am exactly what I say I am. And you don't have, it won't take you long to realize or recognize that I am exactly what I say I am. And if a person ever see me doing something that's out of pocket, or something that don't seem right, they probably need to come and communicate, because it might be a misinterpretation or something, because I'm not getting off of that. My life is too good, and life's too good when you do things the right way. You stay out the way, and you just make sure you're moving with the purpose.
EJ, let me ask you a question. At what age did you get that fine focus in terms of that philosophy that you live your life by? It's certainly helped you from a standpoint financially. It's helped you in the way you raise your kids, your principles. Who helped you develop into this person that you are today? And at what age did that happen, that you really said, you know what, I'm going to focus on doing everything right and not wasting a moment?
Well, I think it starts in your early teens, when you start to experience a lot, and you start recognizing the people who are successful, the people who are doing things, and the people who aren't doing things.
Why don't other guys get that, though? Why don't other guys get that?
Because I can't speak for nobody else, but as for myself, it only makes sense. It only makes sense to, okay, you see the people that are successful, you see the people that you can count on. Like, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But I don't like the feeling of somebody telling me they're going to do something and they don't do it. And in life, when you start experiencing those things, I don't want to be like that, because I don't want people to feel like I feel. So when people let you down, or when people, go against certain things, it's a feeling that you get, and you say, I don't want nobody else to feel this feeling. So you develop that over a period of time, and you think about the people who you can count on, the people who you can call. And that's what I recognize. I recognize those people, and I make sure that I am one of those people. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I can't do it, I'm going to let you know ahead of time. I'm going to be straight up from the beginning, because it saves a lot of time, and I don't want to mislead anybody.
Right. Yeah. You know what? EJ, you also, for during a period of time when everybody is spending their money on jewelry and all the all the wasteful things that we as young people that come into a lot of money at a young age, right? The first thing we do typically is spend money on jewelry or cars and that sort of thing. I remember as I'm going to give you guys another inside look to our relationship and things that have happened. I remember when you basically there was a certain point in time when you would always have me buy white T-shirts for you, right?
Yeah.
Boxes and boxes of white T-shirts you would have me send to you. And I remember I used to say to myself, man, what's he doing with all these white T-shirts? And you said to me, and I only wear them one time. And I was like, why would he only wear them one time? Tell the audience your philosophy on your during that period of time, why you always wore white T-shirts and you only wore them one time.
Well, back in the day, that was pretty much the trend. And for me, it was more of convenience. And if you just do the math, if I buy by bulk, first of all, anybody understands that business, you're going to get them at a cheaper cost. So right. I get them at the best cost you could possibly get. I was getting shirts at like $4 or $5.
Right.
So if you're getting shirts at that price, and you start thinking about, okay, why do I have to send this shirt to the cleaners? Why do I even have to wash this shirt? It costs more to send it to the cleaners than to actually get a new shirt. So I would buy by bulk and, just wear a new shirt every time. It's like I'm fresh every day.
Fresh every day.
I don't have to worry about going to the cleaners. I don't have to worry about the extra tasks. It's just eliminating unnecessary tasks that always made sense to me. And I try to make
And there's something about a white T-shirt also that is crisp.
Fresh. It's always fresh. A fresh white tee, not just a white tee. It got to be a fresh one.
Fresh white tee, yeah. It's got the crease in it, right? You got the crease.
It has to be,
I was telling Misty, you could wear that. You could wear that out to the club when it's fresh and crisp. But as soon as you wash it, it's no longer. It's like during the during the 90s or even the late 80s when Air Force Ones, the white Air Force Ones, people, when you smudge, you got your Air Force Ones dirty.
Oh, that was even early 2000s. Like that was like
even today, Air Force Ones are considered classic shoes.
Yeah.
Not many people even would wear those after they got smudged. They would really stop wearing them. You know, EJ. So it's just incredible how you have lived your life to the point to where everything, every thought has a purpose. Everything that you buy has a purpose. Another time I remember, this was probably around the end of your career, because I've worked with you through your career and even after, during your retirement. I've helped you. Me and you have done a lot of things where I've helped you with some of your endeavors. But I remember one time you showed me your breakdown of all of you on a sheet that you created on your computer, and it had every single item, every single cost coming out. It was like your balance sheet. And the way you created this balance sheet, it was absolutely no one. I had never met anyone that, especially in the NFL, with all the clients that we've had, that took such like close responsibility, fine focus into every penny that was coming in and out of your bank account. And you were still maybe in your late 20s. Kids, young men at that age usually don't think that way. Usually you have an accountant or a financial advisor that does those things. You were doing that on your own. And I thought that was extremely impressive. Have you kind of put that onto your kids, that thought process, the way you think about your money, as because your kids are extremely successful now in the stages that they're in. Have you talked to your kids about that?
Yeah, we live it. Once you live something, it just naturally happens, and that is naturally passed down, because they have whatever routines and habits you have. They kind of transfer. If you're in tune with the kids, and especially the ones that are inquisitive, the ones that want to be involved. And these things make sense because at some point in life, they're going to have to deal with these situations. So you start at an early age and get them ahead, get them to where these are the things you do. These are the things that you need to do. And once you understand financials, you know, everything else in life kind of puts itself in perspective, because it usually starts at the financial aspect. You know, what you can do, what you can't do, the places you're able to go, how you're able to travel, how you're able to live. It all starts from a financial aspect, unless you have somebody else that's actually taking care of you, but it still carries over to their financials. And so you try to make sure they're aware of the money that they have coming in, the money that they're spending. They understand the value of things they purchase. And once they start spending their own money, they look at it different. When I was, at one point I used to, take everybody to go get school clothes, it's school clothes time. So with school clothes, we used to go and, you start out, you say, okay, I'm gonna get you 2-3 weeks worth of school clothes. Right. And so they don't understand financials at this point in time. So you go and it's about the amount that you actually purchase them, the amount of items. Yeah. And then as they started getting older, I shifted and I said, I'm just gonna give you the money. And I would say, okay, here's $1,000 or here's $2,000. Go get you some school clothes. And they come back with 4 items because the value of it, they didn't understand what we were spending to make sure that they had. But once you put the money in their hands and say, look, here's your money, go get you some school clothes. Now they have less items because now they understand, I can't pick up these shoes. It doesn't make sense to buy this shirt. It goes to, they start comparing the shirt, a name brand or a higher end white shirt versus a regular white shirt that they could save money on. They would make better decisions. And so that's one thing I started implementing, to start making sure that they're aware of the money that the parents are spending. Like, kids don't really know until they become a parent or they get their own house, their own car. They really don't know, especially when you have somebody that's footing the bill for them. So I started shifting it. Those were lessons that I learned along the way from a parenting standpoint. Start putting those responsibilities in their hands. Make sure that they're aware of it, because they see that you're spending this much money. Now it goes and it also carries over to the career choice, things you want. It's like I tell my kids, don't tell me you want to live in Miami, or you want to live in New York, you want to drive this type of car, you want to do all these things, but you're going to school to be a teacher. It doesn't match. Make sure everything aligns from the beginning. If you want to do all these things, you want to have all these things, this type of lifestyle you want to live, make sure you start from the beginning, position yourself. The decision you make is going to have to reflect that. So you can't say I'm going to do these things or I want to live this type of way, but you go get a job that doesn't pay that, or things that just won't foot the bill. Right.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And it makes a lot of sense, because you do see sometimes that people are living one way and their kids never really understand how they got to that. Right. And so I think I love that you're teaching it. And I noticed on your website that you have something called Create the Life Mentorship, where you're teaching stuff like this. You're teaching self-mastery. You're teaching financial freedom and lifestyle skills and even mindset skills. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because it sounds like, from what I'm seeing on your site and from what I've seen of what you're doing out there and what you're saying about your kids, you sort of teach that to other people as well.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, as you get older, is you start gathering information. I stay on the scene, I stay in the loop. So you just gathering so much information, and you see so many people that are making mistakes, or they haven't had somebody they can get next to. So we created this platform, and which has the podcast, and we haven't really taken on members, because I want to get it right. I want to make sure that I get it all the way right to
I'll be in your beta group if you're accepting beta group members, test members.
Yeah, we're gonna be a test.
I'll be a test dummy.
I'll be a test member also. I'll be a test member also.
It's gonna be pretty dope. It's everything life, and it's all these principles, because if you look at what people are lacking, they're lacking life coaches, they're lacking mentors. All they know is the people that they grew up around. And I want to be able to reach people from all walks of life and give them this information. And when I go back to my story, I come from one of the poorest towns or poorest cities in the US. And so my reach, you go from the ground all the way to being able to sit in boardrooms and hang with billionaires. That's a big gap. So the thing that what I've traveled and the things that I've been able to experience, I can get on so many different levels. And a lot of times we don't think that we belong, or we don't think that, or we don't have people that could actually relate to us. And that's where I come in, and I'm able to relate to the person that really come from these certain situations and let them know that, hey, it's still possible. It's not as complicated as you think. And that's what Creative Life is about. But it's a big program that I'm putting together because, as I get older, all I want, it's the way I'm giving back. I'm always make some money. Believe that, but right. But it's a way that you can give back and you can help people. You can help people. So it's like a paid mentorship for the people that are serious. And when you start talking about Creative Life, if anybody that looks at my Instagram, there's no way you can't say I'm not having fun. It's like I'm having fun every day. I'm doing things, but it's controlled fun and it all makes sense. But I'm also working too. And
right.
I don't see where anybody could have a problem with that, because I'm doing the things that people dream of doing, but I'm also being compensated in certain respects, because I put it all together so I can always have fun. I don't miss a day of living life,
right.
And I try to make sure that I keep those things in perspective, because I think sometimes we get so locked in on trying to become this or become that. Football was my try to become. I mastered that, got to the highest of the high. Now it's about living life, reaching back, showing people how to do it, but also enjoying this thing.
That's amazing.
You mentioned mentor. Who was your mentor, EJ?
Mentor, I think mentor is subjective. It's one of those things where, there's so many people that you cross paths with, and you just learn a little bit as you go.
Learn a little bit from everyone.
Yeah, you learn a little bit from everyone. I wasn't fortunate enough to have this person that was this big time person, this person that knew everything, and he just tucked me and said, look, I'm gonna take you under my wing and take you to the next level. It's been bits and pieces. Along the journey, you're gonna cross paths with so many people. And the information is how you receive it, how you take it, the things that you actually do with it. And for me, if I saw somebody doing something, I would be like, man, that's pretty cool. It's like, I like to read books. I remember when we used to be house shopping. Bailey, when you get in the league, everybody goes to the house. And we used to go in these nice neighborhoods. And one thing that always stood out to me was in every one of those houses, they all had a bookshelf. And they all had all these books. And you started thinking, like, they're not athletes, they're not entertainers, but they constantly fill their brains with knowledge and information. And every one of my houses have a bookshelf. It's like you take those little things and you say, okay, look, I'm never gonna stop reading, I'm never gonna stop studying. And I believe in Wilson's law. Wilson's law is knowledge and intelligence is a direct correlation to financial success, basically.
Wow.
And so I just nonstop try to fill my brain with information. I try to stay in the loop, and I'm gonna figure something out. I just know I'm gonna always figure something out, and that's what I've been doing. I'm always finding the lane. I'm always finding the opportunity. But the catch is I gotta make it to where it's fun. You have to, I gotta find things that I'm interested in and that's fun. And so that's where it's like you can lock in on things, but it might be boring over there. I might turn down certain things that are pretty boring. So it has to be something that's fun, something that's pretty cool, because I always look at it, if my last day on this earth was today, nobody can say I didn't live this thing. And I try to make sure that I do that day in and day out, and I hold myself accountable. Like every day I got to get out and do something, at some capacity.
So what's your favorite book right now, or that you've read along those lines? Or I know you might have a few.
But with me, I'm always gonna say from gold teeth to gold jacket. That's my favorite quote.
Yeah, you gotta say that.
You always gotta take care of self.
You gotta plug it. You gotta plug it.
100%.
Always. That's
Hey, EJ, how long it take you to write? EJ, how long it take you to write that speech? By the way, I've been saying it since you said it. Since you said the speech, the best Hall of Fame speech ever. I mean,
I appreciate that.
It was the best Hall of Fame speech. I was, you know, you invited me. I was there, but that was the first speech that really it hits you emotionally, and it talks a little bit about, you know, you indirectly but directly talk about the system and how, you know, minorities are treated just based on the look, and so you hit a lot of topics, but you were real smooth with it, and you know, so. How long did that take you to write, EJ?
Well, it wasn't so much as how long it took. It was during COVID, so we got pushed back a year.
Right.
So it was one of those things. And then once you got pushed back, you had to change the time.
Right.
It had to be done within. I think because we had so many guys, we had a 2-class celebration or
right.
We had the situation where we had 2 classes, we had induction ceremony. So we had 2020 and 2021. So they cut the time. So with the time being cut, that was the only adjustment you had to make, because if you look at the speech is really just telling the story, and it's just walking from the beginning all the way to the end. And that's that's the basis of it. And then within it, you know, you make sure that, you know, it's like me, I say, you know, if I do, I'm always competing. I'm going to compete in everything I do. I think it's only right. Right. And I say, I may not be the most popular ball player, may not be the most popular Hall of Famer, but they're going to remember Edge. They're going to remember me from this speech, because, you know, anything you do, you want to leave a lasting impression, but an impact. But then it all kind of sums up the perception narrative, because all my life, you know, that Bailey, you know me. If people know you, they know you. But the people that don't know you, they think, oh, this guy is out. This guy has dreads. This guy has gold teeth. So the perception part of it, I think that's what took more people by surprise, because you didn't expect it. You expect the guys that are looked at like they do everything the right way. You expect them to come out and lay something out like that on the speech tip. But for somebody like myself, you know, they probably expected me to come out and, you know, be slurring my words, going, you know, just doing whatever. But for me, you know, it's going to be right. You know, if I pop out, it's going to be right. And nobody knew I was practicing it. Nobody knew I was putting it together. And it's just like when I worked out. Nobody never knew when I worked out.
Right.
I was in the best shape of anybody on any team that I've ever been on. And the same thing with stuff like this. I'm always competing behind the scenes, because I got to represent for myself and for the people that are looked down upon, or people who aren't perceived as what status quo may be.
Right.
I love that, because it's the stuff that people don't see that you do in
Yes.
general that makes the difference.
Absolutely.
Right? That's amazing.
You know, who came up with the slogan from gold teeth to gold jacket? Because that it right there. That's it right there.
Well,
Anytime like that's synonymous with you. Who came up with that?
That was me. That was it was crazy, because, like, you know, before I got in the Hall of Fame, you know, I went through the process. So like 5-6 years, you know, you don't get in, you know. So I never went to the hotel, and you always get that phone call when you're not getting in. You get that. I would never answer the phone. Like, if you get that phone call, you know, like, hey, I'm not getting in, right? So, so you know, and then all of a sudden I answered the phone this one time, and that was the time I got in. It was in Miami. You just feel it, right?
Right.
And then when I did my post, and it just came to me on my Instagram post, you know, like, I'm in the Hall of Fame. And so that was the first post I put out once it was known that I was getting in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
It just came out of nowhere. It was just so fitting. But it's like I was actually laying in the bed, and I was just laying in the bed, and I was like, I get up, I get the phone call, and like, damn, I'm really in the Hall of Fame, you know. And it just, everything just, you know, it's just that little moment where everything just comes to you, and it just, like, everything just started speeding up from right then and there.
Wow. Were you emotional when you got that? Like when you were there in the bed laying down, most people, they get emotional. How were your emotions? How were your feelings at that moment?
It wasn't, I didn't get emotional, and it was like, when you like, damn, they finally did right by
They
me.
finally did it.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's like that you deserve, but then you also understand that there's a system, there's a procedure that you have to go that nobody really knows. And so it's just a matter of time. So it wasn't a matter of where you're going to get in, it's when.
Right.
And you're like, dang, everything just aligned. Miami, Florida,
Right.
I'm here, went to school here, the whole family is around here. So it just aligned the right way. And so it was perfect. It wasn't, and then it's like the first call you make, first I call my mom always, I call my mom, and then from there I talk to the owner of the team. And then everything just starts speeding up, just starts speeding up because we had the actual, the awards show was right down the road. I live on Brickell, so it was right down the road. They had a car out there. They had everything lined up. So everything was just nonstop right then and there. But it was just like a sign of relief. Like, dang, I'm finally, like all the hard work, it paid off. Now I can actually say, yeah, I'm one of the best to ever do it. Nobody can take that away from you. You think about all those years you put in that work.
I love that. I think that's an important message too, is that sometimes a delay is not a denial. It's just like you're saying, being patient, wait for the process to play out.
Yeah. But the thing about that is the thing I realized from going to the hall, like I go there every year. I'm trying to go for as long as I can go without missing a year. But you see the guys that are first ballots and you see the guys that have waited a little while, there's a difference in the appreciation. And it's just something about it because when you first come out of the NFL, you're already used to that lifestyle. You're already used to a lot of things. You're used to getting awards, and then all of a sudden, after you're delayed, it's just something about that delay that makes it like, dang, you know what? This right here really means something. It means more, and it's one of those things that I see every year I go there. You can tell the guys that really appreciate it.
Right. I just based on what you said, EJ, when you look at your history, your basically your journey in the NFL, the amount of 1,000-yard seasons that you've had, you had 2,000-yard seasons in college. You've had 7 or 8 1,000-yard seasons out of 11 in the NFL. You look at your stats and you say to yourself, is this a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? Is this the first, is he going to get in right away? And I say yes, right? So what do you, did you feel like you should have been a first ballot? Did you feel that way about yourself? And after they called you and finally told you, did those two moments, were you mad because you should have been the first ballot? You should have been the first, on your first opportunity, you should have gotten in? How did those two emotions, react with each other?
Well, first of all, statistically, I don't think you can really measure my game or you can measure everything. So when it comes to first ballot, if you're going numerically, I think I was number 10 or number 11 then, so numerically, and I'm not really, but it's one of those things where you don't really get caught up in that because there's no true measurements of saying this is what's going to make you a first ballot Hall of Famer. So
but from being a fan, you know that Deion Sanders was going to be first ballot. Yeah. You know that there's certain guys and I looked at you as one of those guys.
That's the thing. Numerically, it's depending on what they're judging. But the thing that I did that separated me from majority of the guys that played my position was the fact that I had to really get in there and be an offensive lineman.
Right.
If we have the top passing team year after year after year, and it's a one-back system, and I'm always out, and I'm always pass protecting.
Yeah.
Backs don't have to do that. They never had to do that. So that was the thing that separated me numerically. And the fact that I was always a team player. It wasn't really about stats. We used to come out after the third quarter. So if it was about stats, I could have gotten more stats. Right. If that's what it was about, I could have made that a point of emphasis. Right. But if I get more stats, that means there's less for the other guys. And so we was on a balanced team to where it worked itself out. But it's not something where you sit up there and you complain about, because the fact that you know that you can't name a person that played my position that blocked as much as I did and ran the ball at a high level and caught the ball at a high level. You know, you might have somebody that ran better or ran more or ran like this or that, or you might have somebody that.
But they didn't do all three great. They didn't do all three great.
That's the thing. That's the thing that I always took pride in. I always said every down back, and I did all three at a high level. And that's something that you don't really find, you know, and that's one thing that I've always said, the thing that I'm not going to get credit for, the thing is just like an offensive lineman. Nobody praised the offensive lineman, you know, but they do a lot of work in the trenches, the things that you don't actually see, but those aren't the things that are highlighted. So I never really tripped on the thing, because for me, the game to me was about taking my family from a poverty level and positioning this whole family. It wasn't so much of, oh, I got to do this on a football level. Football was an opportunity for me. I mean, that's all it was, and I always keep that in perspective. So I'm never going to sit up there and complain or get in that debate with somebody about, man, you should have been this, or maybe you should have been that. It's like, it doesn't matter to me. I know I'm a Hall of Fame dad. I know I'm a Hall of Fame son. I know as a friend, you know, if you look at the things that I have done with this game, I don't think nobody can complain about that, or nobody can have nothing negative to say, because this game was bigger than just the game. It was about the game of life. And that's what I try to make sure that I master, things that I try to take pride in.
Well, you're certainly a Hall of Famer and first ballot in Robert's book. 100%. Got you there. A lot of us have you there. A lot of us have you there. So I want to ask, I know we're starting to get close to the end of our time together. And you know, of course, we want to be really respectful of your time. You have so much going on. But I did want to ask a mental health related question, because we are here to talk about that and kind of spread that as well. So, you know, you've spent a lot of time talking about calculated stuff, and numbers can make sense, right? Like, they're easy to make sense of. But sometimes emotions are a little bit more difficult to make sense of. Those experiences aren't as linear as looking at a number or a spreadsheet or saying like, okay, this adds up, this makes sense, this doesn't. So when you've been through some challenges in your life and you're facing some of those difficult emotions, right? How do you work through that when sometimes they don't always add up and they don't always make perfect sense?
But anytime things don't make sense or not adding up, that's when you dig deeper into your purpose and your faith. And you start looking at, okay, why? And you start searching. And then once you put everything in perspective, the answer starts to creep a little closer to being exactly what you need to hear. So I try to make sure that I'm always like just keeping things in perspective, but also being honest with myself and trying to figure out the why. You know, the why is what drives you, and the why is what's going to say, okay, this is what's happening. This is the message behind that. And so I try to make sure that I never get far away from, first of all, you have to have faith. And then you start saying, okay, what is your purpose? And if you don't veer too far away from those things, the answer usually shows up.
So when you're struggling, you say, okay, let me go back to if things feel like they're not making sense because you're going through a hard time, right? Because we all go through this because we're humans, we're not robots, right? And that's part of what we like to talk about here, is get really real about that. So when those things happen, you're saying that for you, that process is sort of like, what's the why and well, first of all, faith, right? And then second of all, what's the why and the purpose maybe behind what's happening here? And that, if I'm hearing you correctly, is what allows you to get through the challenging times.
Yes, every time, I always look for the why, like what's going on? What am I not doing right? You know, what what's the message behind this? Because there's some reason this thing is coming up, or some reason this is happening. And so once you get to a point to where you're saying, okay, you start saying, okay, this is what I'm trying to be taught, or this is the message behind it. And it's gonna make me a better person. It's because sometimes you look at, like, a lot of times we can look in the mirror and we don't even see ourselves, because we see what we want to see. But when you just step back and you put everything in perspective, you start saying, okay, what's the purpose behind this? What is really happening? And for me, every time I do that, it just starts to come, because, storms don't last a long time. And you just start saying, okay, this is what's happening. This is what I need to do to make things better. And if I misjudge or miscalculate that, that's not the thing. It's just a process of elimination. You just keep going. But you can't, I'm never going to lay down. I'm never going to complain. And I've always been self-sufficient, independent. I count on me. I bet on me. I depend on me. And everybody else that comes that are great people, I appreciate them. They're bonus. And so for me, I just got to say, I got to figure this out. I got to figure out what it is. Even if I need to go to somebody and ask a question and get a nugget from here or get some kind of inspiration, but it's something that I'm not doing right, that's the only time things go wrong. And I usually get right back on track.
And that's great.
I love that you have that awareness, and I love that you were sharing that you count on you. But then I think what's other important for our listeners and watchers to hear what you said is that you go to other people when you have questions, when yes, you rely on you and you rely on yourself to take that initiative to say, like, something's not right here, let me figure this out. But then you're not afraid also to ask others for direction in that. So
no, you always, like, in anything, it's wise to seek counsel. And counsel doesn't have to come from a physical person. Counsel can come from a book. Counsel can come from somebody else's experience. And so you have to seek counsel, especially when you don't know what's going on or what's happening. But I don't have a problem with reaching out to anybody, because, like, for me, I'm not too prideful. I'll make a phone call very quick, because it's about bottom line. And but the thing you try to just be aware of is, who are you calling? I don't want to call somebody who is going to throw it in my face or going to remind me of, hey, you did this or during that time. So you have to be very particular about who do you call. And those people are put in position over a period of time. And you start saying, I'm comfortable with this person. I watched this person. I know this person. They won't stab me in the back. They won't go against. They won't even judge me. They just let me be in it, but they'll tell me the truth.
Right.
And then what you do, and then the other thing that I've always, I make sure that I'm aware of what you do with the information that a person gives you, how you receive it and how you implement it. That is so important, because when a person tells you something that comes from the heart, and they see you actually take that information and do something with it, if they can say they did their job. So you have to fulfill their purpose. And now you have somebody they're satisfied, but then now you can come back to that person and they actually feel good about telling you something. And Bailey, it's like, if you talk to an athlete, you say, hey, you should do this, 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 and they don't do it. But then they come to you every time they got a problem.
Right.
After a while, you're gonna shorten the conversation.
Yeah.
And you're gonna just give them the basic. But the one that does exactly, when you say, hey, you just implement this, now you dig deeper into your bag to give them more.
To give them more. 100%. EJ, you've you were amazing, man, and we appreciate you coming on the show. And before we let you go, we always ask a fun question. And the question we typically ask our interviewees is, who is your top 5 rap artists of all time? So can you give us your top 5 rap artists of all time before we let you go?
That's complicated, man.
It doesn't matter. From 5 to 1. From 5 to 1.
For me, I'm like, I'm always put the people who I know.
Okay, let's go.
People who I know. So I'm always put Florida guys, people who I
Okay.
know personally. So I'm gonna say Trick Daddy. Of course, I like Jay-Z, I like Tupac, like Biggie, I like Nas, I like Plies. I like so many guys, man. It's hard for me to say top 5 because like I'm biased. Like if you're my friend, you're going on top of the list.
You're going on top, and that's why this man is always winning, because he knows what to do at all times. He has a purpose. Every answer he gives is for a reason. And he says, you know what? I got to take care of the people that I personally know. I'm not going to put them, I'm not going to, delete them from a list for guys I don't know. So I'm going to just big up the people I do know. That's why I love you. Always stay true to yourself. But the one guy you did say, Trick Daddy, that's my boy, and I agree with you.
That's my boy,
I agree with you. We
man.
got to put Trick in there.
Yeah, I can see. It's like it's just a different way you can call when you can say somebody's your favorite this or favorite that, but if you can call your favorite person, that makes it even better,
Yeah,
but
well,
he was
the
the
story
first guy
behind the
you
song
said.
too.
He was
Always
the
gonna
first
be
guy
Trick
you
Daddy.
said, Trick Dad. He was the first guy you said, so I'm gonna go with that.
And then plus, like think about with Trick Daddy, we was in multiple videos together. When our climb was around the same time. And then Trick Daddy put my name in raps. Like, how can you go against somebody that's supporting you?
100%.
That's a good point.
EJ, we love you, man.
Yeah,
we love
so
you.
tell people if someone wants to reach out to your website, see everything you've got going on, buy a copy of that book From Gold Teeth to Gold Jacket. Where can they get all that information?
Well, I'm heavy on the Instagram at Edgerrin James, and then plus I have edgerinjames.com, and I'm not hard to find. The people that really want to get next to you, it's not complicated. It's the people who's making an excuse and you're just an option, just in case. But I'm around. But man, I appreciate y'all having me. Y'all have a great show. I like the way it's structured out. Y'all work good together. Keep it going. All right. All right, cool.
Like it's supposed to be. Wake up, feeling good, even looking better. I don't know if it's the smile, the cash, or the sweater, but everything is lovely when the sun is out. We trying to have a good time is what I'm talking about. Cookouts, barbecues, and the fish fries. Blue lights, basement parties, I ain't never lied.